It's 8 a.m.
Why don't you shut up?
Oh, my God.
And let's get down to some real business.
On the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bowers.
If it's a hot story, we're digging deeper.
It's the hottest.
And it's on your home for nonstop sports.
The Zone 105.9 and online at The Zone. It's hot. 1059.com.
Oh, man. Good morning. Welcome in. Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. We'll have Steve Palazzolo on the Miller Lite guest line. Steve Palazzolo on the Miller Lite guest line. He is with ProFootballFocus.com. We'll talk Dak, Aaron Rodgers, and all the NFL QB discussion with Steve Palazzolo at 8:30 today. Want to welcome you in. Say good morning. This is ESPN WRKS. The show is brought to you by the Ribeye and a cold Miller Lite and or Four Roses Bourbon Old Fashioned at Kessler Prime in the Renaissance. Visit KesslerPrime.com to make a reservation. Would love to hear from you. Farm Bureau Insurance call-in line, 601-995-1059. Twitter handle at Bowbounds. And the Mississippi Ag John Deere Tractor text line is 601-885-3776. That's 885-3776. I've got Blake Mania with me. You can call me Bowbounds or El Camino Jenkins. Either one you want to do. Fred Smoot gave me a nickname a couple of days ago when he was in studio. It was good to see Smoot. You know, I have not seen him. I don't think that I have. Maybe in the early 2000s when he traveled back here when he was with the Redskins the first time. But if not, it's been since Mississippi State, since I saw Fred. And Smoot was back in town to catch up with family. It was cool to have him in studio. If you missed it, you can watch it on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. Or you can go to our Facebook page and search The Out of Bounds Show if you would like to watch it. It's great to listen to on Apple Podcast, but watching it is pretty darn good too. And Smoot got into all sorts of the topics. Yeah. You just don't ever
That's
know.
a loose definition.
Golly. Oh, I love that guy. Todd Wade played with so I was texting back and forth with Todd Wade yesterday, and Todd Wade played for Ole Miss and with the Washington Redskins, and he loves Smoot. He does. He really, you can tell when a former player, or even when they're playing, but when they're talking about a teammate or a former teammate and it's one that they respect compared to not. And this is all of us, right? I mean, when we played high school ball, there were teammates that you respected, there were teammates that you just eye rolled, right? But the one thing about Todd Wade, when I was talking to him about Smoot, he was like, the thing that I admired about Smoot was he came to play. I mean, it's a business, and it's the NFL, and you're expected to perform. And Smoot did that. He also said he never stopped talking in the locker room. That and can you imagine him during his playing days? I mean, and you know what I was thinking about? Smoot likes to obviously Smoot's made really good money, right? And he took care of it, and he still makes really good money in Washington, D.C. media, which is great. But Smoot told me that he likes to jump in the car and just drive it a lot of times from D.C. to here. And what I pictured, what I was trying to envision was Smoot, that's a pretty nice road trip, right? I don't know what it is, 10 hours, 11 hours, maybe a little more. And I drove it when I was a kid, but since the last 5 times I've been to D.C., I've flown. It's a lot. I mean, I get both sides, but I'd rather fly into Reagan and be right there. But the point is, it's also good to get some windshield time. But can you imagine Smoot ever driving quietly?
No.
In other words, what I mean, I see Smoot on the phone the whole time. In other words, he's talking to D'Angelo Hall or Champ Bailey or Deion Sanders or any number of dudes. I mean, he talked about how close he is with Santana Moss, D'Angelo Hall, Champ Bailey. He and Deion hit it off. He and Deion, I think, were teammates for 3 or 4 months. Deion Sanders, head coach at Jackson State, but I guess more importantly, Hall of Fame corner. But do you see that, Blake?
100%. I actually think he may just talk to the windshield.
Yeah.
Also, that drive is 14 and a half hours. I've made it once.
Okay. All right, 14 and a half hours. You must have been going like 55 miles per hour.
It's terrible. No,
do you drive slow?
That's the speed limit. That is the MapQuest speed limit time, 14 and a half hours.
Do you take an hour and a half off MapQuest because they always have it tell you it's longer than it is. But, you eat slow. Do you drive slow?
That's so funny. You've always said that, and yet everyone I know tells me I eat fast. So I just think that means you eat at hyperspeed.
Well, my theory on lunch. My theory on lunch is sit down. You don't need the waiter or waitress to come to your table twice at lunch. Dinner, let's take all the time in the world. I mean, I like to go out to dinner with you or friends or Wendy or clients or whatever. That can be 2 hours. But my theory on lunch is sit down, order. I'd like for it to drop in 7-8 minutes. Let's eat and let's roll. But I keep looking down when we go to lunch, and I'm like, what are you doing?
I don't eat that much during the day.
You kind of move your food around or something. I'm not really sure what's going on. Now, when we went to Ding Hao, I will give you credit. When we went to Ding Hao, you ate a little bit faster.
I went to Ding Hao, 2 nights ago.
Did you get takeout or did you eat there?
I ate there. It was fantastic. Oh,
I love that place, man. That decor
so
is it's like old style Vegas, but kind of not. That makes sense.
You know what's incredible? So Yen, the lady who owns it and is the only person that works. She's the only person that works there. She works like 1 million hours a year. It's incredible.
How does she? Here's what amazes me.
And 4 kids, Bo. 4 kids.
She can wait on like 8 tables, and not be in the weeds.
And still have a conversation.
Understand.
She has a conversation with... She knows every person. Everyone who walks in there is somehow a regular, and she calls them by name. It's remarkable.
Oh,
but
good hell.
She came up to the table 2 nights ago, and the first thing she says is, I'm trying to sell my house. You know anybody who can sell my house?
Oh, my God.
I was like, yeah, I don't know, Yen, but we'll find out.
See, I've told several people, we need an official... realtor on the show, and if you want dynamite digital and radio,
there you
come
go.
on.
There you go.
Our podcast was up 90%. Our total listenership on the app 47%, and TSL, time spent listening, which is the space we live in, was up 38% on the app. So come and get some if you want some digital. I know all your marketing people in your companies are throwing around. None of them know what the hell they're talking about, but I know they're throwing around digital. If you want to go with the digital monster, it's right here on the Out of Bounds show. We'll do well into 7 figures, podcast, webcast views, and live streams. Okay, I've got a minute here. I'll go to Donnie. Donnie, good morning. What's up? All right, maybe Donnie on the other side, Blake. How about that? Okay, my bad. I didn't see it till it popped up here, and I don't know if Donnie will wait another 5 minutes, but that'd be cool. All right, live in the Bank Plus studio, the show is brought to you by Madison Ridgeland Academy. If you're on the fence about your child's future, now is the time to call MRA and schedule a private tour of the school. 601-856-4455. Some grades are full, so you'll want to go ahead and get on the list. MRA 601-856-4455. Schedule a private tour today. The show is also presented by Live Oaks Golf Club in Roosevelt's and the Philly cheesesteak sandwich for lunch. At Live Oaks Golf Club, their restaurant Roosevelt's. Check out the Philly cheesesteak sandwich at Roosevelt's at Live Oaks. All right, welcome back into ESPN 105.9 The Zone, WRKS. We're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. It's new and updated. Looks amazing. And I hope you're doing well. It's Thursday. The weekend starts on Thursday afternoon, so that's good for you and me. Sunshine is out. Maybe a little chilly, but I will take blue skies and sunshine for sure. Want to say good morning to you. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for making us your kind of whacked out SEC football, sports, and entertainment show of choice. We had a great year. It was a crazy year, but as we kind of put all the numbers together last few weeks, it was a super year. We grew exponentially on digital as far as live streams, Apple Podcast / Spotify, and Podbean. And then, of course, you can watch our show on webcast. You can watch it on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. And you can also watch on Facebook. Search the Out of Bounds Show. YouTube is Out of Bounds Sports. Facebook is the Out of Bounds Show. But you can find it. But I want to thank you. We'd love for you to subscribe on YouTube or Apple Podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're excited about 2021. SEC football schedule was just released. That's awesome. I expect Ole Miss and Mississippi State to start off 3-0. I think the offenses are going to be a ton of fun to watch. Ole Miss had a dynamic one this year. Mississippi State's really started to turn around. It'll only get better. Too many guys running around were 18 years old. And they were still scoring some points and moving the football. So you could expect some things that you've never really witnessed in Starkville going forward. They've got the quarterback. They're upgrading the skill people. Both of them need to get better on defense, blah, blah, blah. Nigel Knott is transferring to Ole Miss. He's from Germantown, signed with Alabama, had some injuries, I guess couldn't get the weight on him, couldn't get up the depth chart. Transfers to East Carolina, didn't play. He's going to Ole Miss. He was a 4-star out of Germantown. Mississippi State got a commitment yesterday, 4-star Catravion Hargrove, 4-star running back from Louisiana. So the teams are still doing work both in the transfer portal and with high school kids. Signing day number 2 is next Wednesday. And then you'll continue to dance in the transfer portal, just depending, on what shakes out over the next few months. Tennessee has a new football coach, Josh Heupel. Evidently, he doesn't like doing the media, and he's not good with the media. When I read that yesterday, I thought, that's not good. Tennessee football has a rabid group of media that cover that football program year-round. Like, even though they have an NFL franchise in the state of Tennessee, and that is huge, they have a group that only covers Tennessee Volunteers. So I don't know how that's going to look, but they evidently missed on James Franklin, couldn't get the money right, and maybe they didn't have enough to offer or couldn't get on the same page with a Matt Campbell at Iowa State. I don't know how he's still at Iowa State. Or P.J. Fleck at Minnesota. Now, the better hire out of everybody I just mentioned, other than maybe James Franklin, would have been Gus Malzahn. Because Gus Malzahn's a big boy. If you can handle Auburn, and Auburn during the Saban run, and you can withstand the barrage of body blows that you have to take every single morning, every single day, that monster in your state, best coach ever, just everything. There's one thing. Do I understand why Gus's offenses didn't quite do what I thought they would do? No. But I don't know what he knows. Now, do I understand, though, toughness and grit from a coach? Yes. And the one thing that you got from Gus Malzahn is he must be tough as nails, because Auburn is they're pretty good at being dysfunctional. And then 2, you got big bad Saban, big bad T-Town, big bad Alabama in your state, and that's how you're judged day in, day out. I would have hired Gus Malzahn. I don't know if they even put out any feelers. Of course, Gus is sitting pretty. He just got $11 million from Auburn. So if he wants to be in Rosemary Beach today or wherever that is, he's already made a ton of dough. But he's a good football coach. He knows how to recruit. He's had success on offense. Auburn was always good on defense under Gus and before. Of course, they've been good on defense my whole life. Well, you could argue that Auburn the last 40 years in the league is neck and neck with Bama. I mean, now LSU has come on since Saban. Georgia, Florida. Urban Meyer had one of the best defenses I've ever seen in my life on one of those both, but one of those especially national championship teams. But yeah, you can make a strong argument the last 40 years that Auburn really doesn't take a back seat playing defense from anybody in the country, much less the league. They're right there in the mix. But Gus Malzahn would have been he's an adult. He knows how to run a program. And if he could keep the Auburn boosters at bay as long as he did, I think he could have walked into Rocky Top and said, you run your company today. I appreciate your $250,000 a year to the whatever it's called, Vol Foundation. But I'm going to coach football, and we can play golf, during the downtime, May or June, once or twice a year. Thank you very much. So I think Gus, you could argue, Blake, he may be the biggest free agent. Urban Meyer is off the table.
Bob Stoops?
Well, but I just don't know if Bob is going to jump back. I mean, he's now been retired for, 4 years?
4 years, something like that, yeah. Would you hire Gus or would you hire Lane Kiffin?
Well, Lane's a better offensive coach. I think Gus is better A to Z. It'd be really, really tough, Blake, because Lane has really turned the corner, figured it out, knows what it takes to be a head coach, did a good job at Florida Atlantic, did a good job this year at Ole Miss. Now he's got some staff shuffling going on. We'll see how that looks. But that's everywhere. I get it. God, would I go Lane or Gus?
Shockingly, I would go Lane Kiffin.
It would be really, really close. I have a little more trust in Gus. I still think Lane could bolt to the NFL.
The issue for me with Gus is look at his quarterback development digression. He got worse every season he was at Auburn.
It did. For the most part, it did. I don't understand. He did. He made some bad decisions on offense. That'd be a tough one, Blake.
I mean, how do I give him credit for the defense when Kevin Steele's pretty much been the guy there for so long?
Well, I got to give Gus. Gus understands that you got to have recruiting class balance, and Gus understood to go out and get Kevin Steele. So, and he kept him happy for several years until Steele stabbed him in the back. It's a great question. Gus Malzahn or Lane Kiffin? I think most people this day and age would lean toward Lane. I think it's closer than people think. The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Two Brothers Smoked Meats in the historic Cotton District. Street tacos and wings, all at Two Brothers. If you're going to basketball or baseball or going to see your child up at Mississippi State, hit Two Brothers. Also brought to you by Welcome Home Beef in Starkville. They will deliver steaks to your door. WelcomeHomeBeef.com. WelcomeHomeBeef.com. We'll be back in a second.
With no money down and low monthly payments, our highly qualified home comfort whisperers install your new furnace or AC at no charge. Learn more at 866-EXPERTS or ComfortTechServiceExperts.com. See website for licensed.
And 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. We are the Out of Bounds Show, brought to you by Eye Care Professionals. Dr. Kirk Jeffries and the team on Lakeland Drive, blade-free LASIK and cataract surgery. Eye Care Professionals. Dr. Kirk Jeffries on Lakeland Drive. Just down from Smith-Will Stadium. When I was growing up, that's where I went to Jackson Mets games. Our next guest will be somewhat interested in this. So I grew up 5 minutes from Smith-Will Stadium, Double-A affiliate in the 80s for the Jackson Mets. And here are some of the names that went through. Billy Beane, Darryl Strawberry, Roger McDowell, Lenny Dykstra, among others. So we got to watch all, and then, of course, the Mets won it in 86. So those guys had come through in 81, 82, 83, 84. And then the Mets win it with Doc Gooden and Keith Hernandez and Strawberry. And, it was pandemonium, both here because of our tie to the Mets. And of course, that was a team that partied like crazy. You start reading some of that book, it's amazing. Now Jake Mangum, who was a star at Mississippi State for 4 years, is in the New York Mets organization. So all kinds of ties to the Mets. We want to welcome in Steve Palazzolo, PFF.com, Pro Football Focus, NFL Insider on the Miller Lite guest line. Steve, let's start with Aaron Rodgers. He sounded like a guy that may have played his last game at Green Bay. What did you make, if anything, of some of the things that he said in the post-game press conference after they lost to Tampa Bay?
Yeah, I thought initially it was player speak. Nobody knows their future. They just drafted a quarterback, but the way the Green Bay media reacted, that it really was, maybe a little bit more than that, I thought was alarming. But I think the reality is, he really was saying, look, they just drafted a first-round quarterback last year. I don't truly know my future. I think he was speaking honestly there, but also in the moment after being frustrated, losing a second straight NFC championship. So I don't really see him going anywhere, at least not for this season. But the Packers do have a decision to make with Jordan Love sitting there, Rodgers getting a little bit older, and probably a year from now when it's a little bit easier to potentially move Rodgers' contract.
Wow. Okay, so how would you describe his postseason? Look, it's hard to win. I mean, Marino didn't win one. Elway didn't get it at the end. If he doesn't, we don't look at him the same way. Now he's considered even better, greater, better than he was. We're so fixated on championships post Michael Jordan winning 6, but they have come up short, and people would argue he may be the most talented guy to ever play the position. How would you sum up his postseason over his career?
He's played well overall in the postseason. I think he played well on Sunday, but I think it more shows. You mentioned Marino, and I think those are good comparisons, right? I mean, that used to kind of be the norm. You've got great quarterbacks, and it was tough. Peyton took forever. At least he got his first one, and then he could never get the second one until he got dragged to it. So I think there's so many variables at play. Honestly, I think it shows just how great Brady's been through the years when you see just the baseline of excellence that he has had with his teams. Rodgers has played well overall, but I think the difference is just a handful of plays here and there. They get into the red zone, and they just could not find a way to get it into the end zone. Maybe he should have run it on 3rd and 8. It's little things in a play here and there where, again, comparing to Brady through the years, Brady's got a laundry list of incredible heroic fourth quarter comebacks in the playoffs and all that. So I think it's just a handful of plays per game a lot of times where Rodgers plays a good game but just falls a little short like they did on Sunday.
And would you have gone for it on fourth down?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't going to change the game dramatically. Converting a 4th and 8, essentially, getting a 2-point conversion, neither one is a high percentage, or like those two things aren't high percentage. But I would have rather have Rodgers make a play rather than putting it in the hands of my kicker and my defense to make a stop.
Steve Palazzolo, PFF.com, NFL Insider, Pro Football Focus. Steve joins us on the Miller Lite guest line. As far as with Aaron Rodgers and his level of play, Steve, would you be surprised if he's got another 3 years at a pretty ridiculous high level going forward?
No, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, honestly, I think the difference is going to be, how much he really wants it. I think that's where we've seen Brady excel. But we saw Peyton Manning at about 39. Pretty much just lose it. His body gave out on him. We saw Drew Brees this year at 41. His body kind of gave out on him, had all the injuries and everything. So it's not easy as you get to 39, 40, 41 years old. So I think it's honestly, Brees works so hard. Brady works. Those guys work hard to keep their body in shape. So I think it's going to come down to that. How much does Rodgers want to keep playing? Because as a former professional athlete, I know, kind of, that the older you get, the harder it is to maybe train and maintain your previous level. So you almost have to work harder. So honestly, I think that's what it comes down to. But Rodgers does have all the skills, and he's also smart. It's not just natural talent he's bringing out there. He knows where to go with football in that age as well, obviously, just knowing what to do with the ball.
All right, you made it AAA with the San Francisco Giants. Was there a time during that time that you thought, I'm absolutely going to make it? Yeah,
in 2009, I was in spring training. I was really good in spring training. I went to 2 major league games to be a backup, so to speak. They just to sit in the bullpen that day, and I was there as like an emergency arm. Never got into a game, but that year I was the closer in AAA to start the season. I thought that was my season, but it just wasn't to be that year. But I was close.
Okay. Back to quarterbacks. You mentioned Brady. How's he do it? We hear all about the way he takes care of himself, but this is really getting into a crazy era. 43 years old, and he can still sling it. How much, if any, of his play or arm strength or velocity is declining?
I don't think there's much physical decline with Brady, to be honest. I mean, yeah, a couple of years ago, I think maybe was his peak, 2016, 2017, as far as velocity and getting the ball down the field. It might be a touch slower, than he was, but it's not drastic. There's nothing physical about his game that I think is declining at all. I think if you want to point to the interceptions the other day, those were, he made some bad decisions. But I think, the one thing that is a little bit more difficult as you get older is making throws when you're getting hit. And, a few of those haven't been great, but, the first time they played the Chiefs, he put the ball about 50 yards in the air while getting hit and put it on Chris Godwin's hands. Like, he's shown velocity and, getting the ball down the field plus accuracy is all pretty much there. So 43-year-old Brady doesn't look that much different from 38-year-old Brady from 30-year-old Brady.
Let's discuss Dak Prescott's future. So if he's healthy, do you expect Dallas to bring him back? It's almost like it's 90-95%, but either Dallas media's drumming some stuff up, or maybe Jerry and Stephen Jones are not saying exactly what they need to say, but it's almost like Dallas may be leaving the door open to entertain somebody else, Matthew Stafford, or do you believe that, or do you think it'll be Dak at the end of the day in Dallas?
I do believe it's Dak at the end of the day. The only hesitation, I think, is based off of prior moves, right? The fact that they paid Zeke and, waited on Dak and, maybe the price is higher than ever, even with the injury. So I think that's been the issue in Dallas. But again, I think the way the league's going with Brees likely moving on and Rivers retiring and, there's a new quote unquote top 10 group of quarterbacks, right? And Dak is almost certainly in that mix now. And I think the comfort level of having that guy is crucial. There's 15 or 20 teams that have uneven or unsettled quarterback situations around the league right now because of, lack of performance or guys retiring. And Dallas has a chance to be one of those teams that's, a little more comfortable. So I think ultimately they'll land with Dak. I don't think Stafford's a more attractive prospect on the market. So, Dak should be the prize of the market outside of, say, Trevor Lawrence or however you feel about a Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. Everybody should be going after Dak, and Dallas has the inside track to bring him back.
Ideally, where would be a good landing spot for Matthew Stafford?
I think the Colts are the perfect team for him. I think you just look at the way they've built their roster. They still have a ton of cap space. I think it would be great for them to grab Stafford plus one of the top receivers on the market, maybe his buddy Kenny Golladay from Detroit. I think the Colts are in this fascinating spot where, as difficult as it is to find a quarterback, you can also find a Phillip Rivers for a year or a Marcus Mariota for a year or a Jameis Winston for a year if you needed to. And that's kind of how the Colts have set up. They've got this playoff caliber roster. They just need a top 15 type of quarterback. So I think going from Jacoby Brissett last year to Phillip Rivers this year was a big part of why they made the playoffs. Now, if you go to Stafford, that could be about the same, maybe a little upgrade over Phillip Rivers, and it's just a really good fit because they have the rest of the pieces in place. I think the Colts and the Broncos are really intriguing with all the playmakers they drafted last year and bringing back Cortland Sutton, adding Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler to the mix. I think the Broncos potentially moving on from Drew Lock and grabbing a Matthew Stafford would be intriguing for both parties.
Oh, wow. I forgot about the Broncos. That would be wild to see if they could upgrade there. NFL insider Steve Palazzolo on the Out of Bounds show, PFF.com, Pro Football Focus. What did you make of Les Snead's comments, general manager for the Los Angeles Rams? Jared Goff is our quarterback for now. It looks like they're wanting to move off of Goff, Steve.
Yeah, so you guys have heard me say the middle tier, mid-tier quarterback. You guys have heard me say that a ton. And the way I describe that is you're on Twitter, you're watching the game, and if you're a Jared Goff fan and you're watching him play, you'll have some things to brag about. You'll have some great plays and say, look, Jared's awesome. But if you're a detractor, during that same game, you'll have some fodder as well. You'll say, look, Jared Goff's terrible. And that's kind of the nature of the middle tier quarterback. It's like a roller coaster ride. And I think what the Rams have seen is Jared Goff, by our grades, was a top 10 quarterback once in his career. He was 10th in that Super Bowl season, 2018. And I think the Rams have been riding that roller coaster ride and saying, man, we may have already hit the top. And that was 2018. And, can we win with him? Yes, but it's going to take this 2018, everything comes together. And the margin of error is just so tight. I think the Rams are just ready to move on and say, look, let's find a better option. We have to. We're limited with what Jared Goff can bring us. I think the 49ers might be dealing with the same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo. And honestly, I think the Lions through the years may have hit that with Matthew Stafford. So it's this weird place to be in where Goff is an upgrade for some teams around the league, but it seemed like the Rams is ready. They're ready to try to find something better, and I think that's what all those comments have shown.
And Steve Palazzolo on the Miller Lite guest line, NFL insider, PFF.com. With the Saints, we had Mike Detillier on, and he's a Saints insider. He seemed to believe that Sean was going to lean more towards the free agent market. What do you see for the Saints and Payton?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would make sense. They're fascinating because you look at their cap situation where they might be as much as $100 million over, but they've gotten to this point by working magic and making money disappear and move other. So who knows what they're going to be able to bring back? But it seems like on paper it has to be a worse team besides the quarterback, right? They have to get a little bit worse, but they'll still have a pretty good baseline of players and an offensive line and some playmakers and some players on defense. So, yeah, I could see them wanting to go the veteran route and just trying to maintain as much as possible. Like if they did have the money to bring in a Matthew Stafford or, a veteran to come in or a Jared Goff, they're competing in the NFC South next year. They're probably not the favorite at this point, but they're competing, and I think that's where Payton would lean, and I definitely see that as what he would want to do there.
What do we do with – you mentioned Brady earlier. 10th Super Bowl. I mean, and you mentioned, hey, look, he still looks good as far as throwing the ball and physically, but good grief. I mean, what's realistic here, Steve, going forward?
For Brady?
Yeah, for Brady.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly thought when he said, I want to play till 45, I was like, man, I don't want to be the guy that doubts him. And, he's 43 right now, and could you see him playing for 2 more years? Absolutely. I could see him playing till 45. My wife looked at me and said, man, is Tom going to retire if he wins the Super Bowl? I said, no, I don't. He's going to win 7 and be ready for 8. He's going to hit the gym the next day, getting ready for number 8. That's just the way he's wired. And I think he set out this goal to be a 45-year-old playing in the NFL, be like the Nolan Ryan, essentially, of football. And I think he can do it, So I think that's where his head is, and, who the heck's going to doubt him? I'm not going to at this point.
No. Wow. Amazing. 43 years old. I guess we'll get into it next week as far as getting you to make a pick in the game. It is kind of interesting, Steve, that Tampa Bay is playing the Super Bowl in their home stadium. I know that it will not be a full stadium, and even if it was, a lot of the tickets are corporate tickets, so it doesn't mean that, as many Tampa Bay fans would be in the stadium. But what do you make of the fact that they don't have to travel and maybe even stay in another hotel room as they prepare for their Super Bowl because it's at home?
Yeah, it is interesting. I think the points you made, though, it's not really a home field advantage. It's just this different quirk where you don't have to do the travel stuff, but it's also a different year. They usually get in there, they get in, a week early, and they do the media events, and all that stuff is different too. So I think for the Bucs, it's just going to feel like a home game coming off a bye, and for the Chiefs, it's not going to feel that different. It's they get in a little bit later, and you just go play football. So I don't think it's a huge deal. It's a good story, and of course, the fact that Brady's the first quarterback to do it, of course, is the fact that he's played in 10 Super Bowls makes sense. So cool story. It's just interesting that the Bucs have probably played a little bit better on the road this year, at least, offensively. So we'll see how they do at home.
Take out Patrick Mahomes. If you had to pick a QB under 25 years old, and you could pick any of them outside of Mahomes, who would you take?
Watson's still under 25, right? I don't know what the cutoff is, but I think he's the second best. So you would take Watson? In the NFL. You would take Watson over Justin Herbert? Yeah, I definitely would. I feel better about Watson. Trevor Lawrence, I think, would legitimately be in that mix, even without seeing him play in the NFL. I think it'd be an honest debate between Watson and Trevor Lawrence. I don't know. I mean, if we're just talking long-term, Russ is over 25, but I think Russell Wilson is still a guy that you would consider in that mix long-term. But I think Deshaun Watson is definitely the guy at this point behind Mahomes.
You're really, really, really high on Trevor Lawrence. So you feel like the hype is justified and the guy's going to be able to come in and maybe not day one, but pretty darn soon get up and running and be playing at a top 15 QB level?
Yeah, I just think you look at what he's capable of. By our grades, he had 3 straight years of 90-plus grades. He was the best true freshman we've ever seen. I think there's just so much from a production standpoint and from a physical tool standpoint that he brings to the table. Now, you never know the mental part. I don't know the mental part of it. I haven't sat down with him, and I don't know what makes him tick, because you look at a guy like Josh Allen who, had some work to do, but man, he's been wanting it. He's been getting after it and getting better and improving, and that part's tough to predict. But I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence is going to be LeBron. LeBron came in with hype. He's backed it up and then some for his entire career. Whereas a guy like Andrew Luck came in with hype. He was very good, but it didn't lead to like 5 championships or anything. I could see Trevor Lawrence being an Andrew Luck type of player, and with the potential to be better. And that gives you just this baseline of success every single year and a chance to win if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So you put him in that Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, John Elway as far as the excitement, buzz coming out of college and potential and so on?
Yeah, definitely. They're one of like the wire-to-wire first-round picks. so to speak. I don't know what the hype was like for Elway when he first got to Stanford or anything like that, but I know as soon as you saw Trevor Lawrence play as a true freshman, you're like, all right, there's a future number 1 overall pick. So Andrew Luck was the same. As soon as I saw Luck as a redshirt freshman, I said, that's a guy. This is a future number 1 overall, and that's what he was, right? So I think Lawrence is absolutely in that type of bucket, has everything you're looking for, plus a pedigree of success. So, yeah, I'm expecting big things from Trevor Lawrence.
All right, we've got about a minute. So what do you do this weekend? No games.
So I'm going to hang out with the kids. Have 4 little guys running around and tell them, next week, guys, we're going to watch the Super Bowl. So let's play this weekend. Next week, it's all football all day on Sunday.
I love
it is weird
all right.
not having. Well, you get the Senior Bowl too. Senior Bowl on Saturday. You can watch that.
Yeah, we've been keeping up with that a little bit too, since it's down here close to us in Mobile. All right, cool. Steve Palazzolo, he's our NFL insider. PFF.com, Pro Football Focus, on the Miller Lite guest line. Steve, have a good weekend, man.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
See you, buddy. Steve Palazzolo on 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. There you go. Tom Brady, 43 years old, in the Super Bowl for the 10th time. Just shake your head. The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Eye Care Professionals. Dr. Kirk Jeffries and the team on Lakeland Drive. Blade-free LASIK and cataract surgery. Eye Care Professionals. That's Eye Care Professionals on Lakeland Drive, mile and a half off of I-55. Eye Care Professionals, Dr. Kirk Jeffries. The Mississippi Ag text line is 601-885-3776. Back in a minute.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but thought it would be too difficult? Then try Babbel. Babbel starts by teaching you words and phrases that gradually get more complex. Soon, you're practicing short conversations. So in 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking a new language in a few weeks. Babbel is built around real life. It teaches you practical conversations that you will actually use. Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free. Just go to Babbel.com today. That's Babbel.